Today we're going to make 1-point perspective cityscapes. So first of all, you need your piece of paper. You can go tall or wide, whichever you like. So horizontal or vertical. I guess I'm going to make mine horizontal. So pretend like this is my piece of paper. And we're going to use something called 1-point perspective. 1-point perspective is an easy method to use that's going to help us show distance, like things are moving off into the distance. It gets a little more complicated when we start adding buildings and things like that to it, but we are going to do our best and we're going to have fun with it and draw some buildings and a street and make a little city here. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to decide where our horizon is, okay? So our horizon would be, the line that goes across the background. And if I was drawing a landscape, whoops, let me take the square tool off. If I was drawing a landscape, I might just have a line across. But because I'm going to have a lot of buildings and stuff in front of that, I'm just going to pretend like, okay, my horizon is right around here. And then I'm going to decide where my vanishing point is going to be. It can be anywhere along my horizon that I want it to be. I'll place mine maybe here, and you're just going to give yourself a little dot. And then you're going to give yourself some guidelines for some things. And so the guidelines basically, and how 1-point perspective works, is that everything, all your guidelines attach to this dot. They're straight lines that attach to that dot. So if I have a ruler, I can place my ruler anywhere going through that dot. And I could make it as wide here as I want it to be, so long as it goes through the dot, or, as straight up and down as I want it to be, so long as it goes through that dot. So what I want to think about is that down here, I'm going to start out with a street, okay? And I'm going to say that my street's going to look about this wide. It's going to go, whoops, I have my ruler tool on, so let me get rid of that for a minute. I'm going to say that my street's going to be this wide. It's going to go from here all the way to here, okay? So if that's the sides of my street, all I need to do now is make myself some guidelines to connect from where the sides of my street are going to be to that dot. So it goes through the dot. I'm going to give myself some lines. Okay. Now, same thing for the other one. It just goes through that same dot. Okay, that is my vanishing point. And it's the point at which everything disappears in the distance. Because as we look at things, things get smaller far away. So that's going to be my vanishing point for my street. And then maybe I'll have some sidewalks alongside. Okay, so if this is my road, and then I think what's next to a sidewalk? Well, or there might be like a little bit of grass or something, right? And then I might see my sidewalk, and it's all going to go right to that vanishing point. Okay, so there's a little bit of grass here, and then I'm going to say my sidewalk would be about that wide. Okay, so I'm going to decide, and you can do this on paper just with a ruler as well. So there's my sidewalk, and then maybe there's a little more grass on the other side of the sidewalk. Okay, so I'm going to give myself another line there to work with. So this is another strip of grass in here, and then maybe some buildings will start there. Okay, so if that's my buildings, then I might want to go like, okay, how tall are my buildings? Well, my first building is going to be this tall up here. And so we want to keep that dot still. All the lines still go through that dot. And remember, I'm just giving myself guidelines right now. So I'm going to actually draw my real lines later. So this is where the tops of my buildings will be on this side of the street. And let's see, what's going to be on the other side of the street? We'll put some more grass. That's a little wide. Let me just fix this a little bit and make sure it goes through my dot. Okay. So we're going to have a little bit more grass. I'm going to try and make it about the same as on the other side. I'm going to have some sidewalk. Try and make it about the same distance across down here as the other side. So obviously it goes right off my paper, and that's fine, but I want this distance to be about the same as this distance where this line's going to be. So I'm just going to eyeball it and go, okay, that looks about right there. And then some more grass on that side. Okay. And then maybe I'll have some buildings start here as well. And I'll make them the same height as the buildings on this side. Or, you know, I mean, buildings will be different heights, so I don't have to have them the exact same height. Maybe we'll make these ones super tall. Maybe they're like some skyscrapers here or something like that. And again, you know, like, I don't know my buildings necessarily to be the same height along here, so I might want to give myself a few more lines there. You know, it's up to me. So let's do that. For fun, let's put a line here. Whoops, that one didn't really go to my dot, so I just need to fix that so that it's lined up to my dot. Okay, you can give yourself a few lines for whatever you think you might want to draw. Maybe here's a few guidelines for a few different heights of buildings. So you guys might notice I'm just drawing a lot of lines right now connected to those dots. Maybe I'll give myself a few more lines here for different heights of buildings. Maybe I'll have a really tall one somewhere, and I don't even have to draw the whole line if I don't want to. Like, say I want to have a really tall building in here, right around here. So I could just do that if I want. Or I could draw the whole guideline, whatever you want to do. So when you're drawing these on your paper, you're going to want to draw them really, really light, because you're going to want to erase some of them. So I'll make a line for some really short buildings too. How's that? Okay, so I just gave myself lots of different options for how tall I want my buildings to be. And I give myself some sidewalk going on here and a road. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to see if we can make this into a drawing. So the next thing I'm going to do, if I'm working in Sketchbook, I want to give myself a new layer so that I'm not going to erase this, and later on I can just hide these so that I don't even have them, and I can just look at them for, use them for what I'm going to draw. So I might want to choose a different color for my drawing, and let's see, so I could draw in whatever color I want. Let's start drawing our road in gray. Okay, so it's going to be pavement, and I'm going to use the ruler again just for that because I do want it to be nice and neat. So I'm going to line up with, you know, the guideline for my road, and I'm going to give myself a nice line here, and then I'm going to line up the guideline for my road on this side. I'm going to give myself a nice line here. It's a little off of the guideline that I had. I made it just a little bit less wide, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. And I'm going to go down here and just give myself a nice line across the bottom. Oh, I need to zoom out a little bit more so that I can move this higher, and then I can move my ruler around a bit better. Okay. So I'm going to go across the bottom here to connect to my gray. I'm going to get rid of the ruler for a minute. I'm going to make sure those are attached there and attached there. And now I can go in here and use my fill tool to fill in my road. Okay, and if I want to add, I'm going to go to a new layer, but if I want to add some stripes down my road, well, they just have to line up with that dot. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get some nice kind of yellow-orange like stripe paint, and I'm going to get, I don't know, I think a pencil would probably look pretty good. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, maybe a little bigger. Okay, so now I'm just going to use my ruler again. Rulers really help with this, so if you don't have a ruler and you're not using Sketchbook, then you can just use whatever straight edge you have. And it doesn't matter if your, you know, vanishing point was somewhere else. Your vanishing point could have been over here. You're going to follow just all the same steps. Everything just connects to it as far as lines. So my road, what I want to do is pay attention to, my stripe is in the middle of my road, so I want to try and go about halfway here. So if I put the bottom, well, it's about halfway in the middle of the road. And then I make sure that this one goes right to my dot that I put before my vanishing point. And now I can go along here and do these. Now, the fun thing that you might think about stripes in the road is they're going to get smaller as they get further away. So they're going to be shorter as well. They're going to look shorter to us as they get further away. So if you have something like this, because it's all getting smaller into the distance, so I'm even making my pencil a little bit smaller. And let's get rid of this now. And there go my stripes off into the distance. So I have this illusion that my road is going far away from me. So now let's go ahead and get a new layer again. And we're going to do our grass by the side of the road. And so we're going to line up with our vanishing point, line up there with the edge of our road. I'm going to get some nice green for my grass. And I'm going to, oops, let me get a better, something better to draw with. Probably need that to be a much smaller pen first. Okay, let's try that. So that goes into the distance. And then we're going to take this one and do this side. Make sure it's going through my vanishing point. Okay. And I'm going to make my line across the bottom so that I can just fill this all in. I'm going to go ahead and do the one on this side while I'm at it. You know what I could do? I'm going to put all these together. So when I have this ruler down here, it just makes sense to do those. So it's going to make my job easier in a bit. So I'll actually go ahead and outline all my grass areas that I want. Put my ruler along the edge to my grass areas. And let's do these ones. So this might, when you first look at it and you look at all the lines, I know a lot of times you're like, what? What's going on? Why? Why are we doing all these lines? It doesn't make sense at first. But once you kind of start to see it come together, then you know that everything all just points to that same dot, and that's how it's done, then it starts to make sense. So we're going to just keep on adding. We're just going over our guidelines that we had there that we kind of set out. And so let's see, we'll get the rest of the grass in here on the sides of our sidewalk. Make sure it goes through our vanishing point. Okay. And, and the one thing that I can see here that's kind of gone wrong in my drawing so far, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but my pen was kind of too big for this because it's kind of thick. And so you guys might see up here, my green is going kind of on top of my road, and it really should be not piled up like this. It should be down to the same level. So I'm going to have to do something to fix that later on. And that's okay. Sometimes you have things like that when, your tools aren't exactly right or something like that. And that's okay. You can fix it later. Things don't always go right in art. So one of the keys of being a really good artist is just to, be resilient and be like, that's okay, I can fix it. If something went wrong, I will figure out what the problem is and I will try and fix it. That way, if you just throw your hands up and go, oh no, it went wrong, I can't do this, then you're never going to get anywhere with art, because art is really about problem solving. There is a lot of problem solving when we do art. So I'm just filling these all in. Okay, now we've got our grass going off there. And again, my thing was so thick, so my sidewalk is vanishing too soon, and my road is vanishing too soon. Let me see if I can put the road on top. That might help. Yep. So moving the road on top definitely helps. Now I need to put the stripes on top of the road. So that's a good start. And then I can fix the sidewalk as I do the sidewalk because I can just go on top of the sidewalk. Okay, so now we're gonna do, or on top of the grass, that's what I meant. So now let's do our sidewalk, and we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing, or we're just gonna fill in our sidewalk in the color that we want. So I'll use that same, maybe I'll use a lighter shade of gray for the pavement because I feel like sidewalks are sometimes lighter than the pavement that is used for the road. The asphalt is sometimes almost like black. Okay, so let's get, first of all, we know that I used too big of a brush before, so I'm going to get a much smaller brush to make this work and make sure I really get through the dot that I want to go through there. And then I'm going to do the sidewalk right here. And I'm going to do this side of the sidewalk. Make sure it goes through my dot where I want it. Do this side of the sidewalk here. And then I also want to draw my edges down here so that it will help me fill it in. It's a bit messy there. And this edge here. And when I get rid of this, I just really gotta make sure that those all meet up. Otherwise, when I fill it, it's gonna be a mess. Make sure that meets up. Okay, let's see how that works. There we go. There's our sidewalk going off. And we can add the details and stuff later. So I'm gonna do my other sidewalk on the same layer. So we'll go in and line this up with our point. And then we're going to line this up with a point again. However wide I want my sidewalk to be down here, right? And we're going to line up the bottom. Okay. And I get to color this in. Oops. And that happened because I didn't have something sealed up enough. There's like a leak in that shape. So let me make sure that I fix all of this, that these corners are not leaky. No, that looks good. So hopefully, yeah, that worked better that time. Okay, so I have my sidewalk in here now, and now I can start to put some buildings in here. So this is the front of the building, okay? And, you know, I can draw as many of these lines coming from this dot as I want to do all kinds of cool stuff in my drawings, okay? But all the lines that would be straight across lines in my drawing will line up with these lines. And you guys will kind of see it more as it starts to come together. So the other thing that I need to do is I need to be able to make some straight up and down lines. And so when I make my straight up and down lines, I don't want to make them accidentally curved or tilted even a little bit. Okay, I want them to really be as straight up and down as this is. So sometimes when you look at this, especially when kids first start doing this, they want to really draw at an angle, but that's going to look like your building's leaning sideways. It's really important to get it straight up and down. So use a ruler if you have one, or a straight edge of some sort, like the edge of a book or a magazine or whatever, and you know, don't let it tilt like that. Make sure it's straight up and down. It should be parallel to the side of your paper. Okay, so I just have to decide, maybe I'm going to have this building starting before I even see it. And it's going to be coming onto my page. And now I'm going to say it ends about here. And I can make my line straight up and down. But here's the thing. First, let me decide what color do I want this building to be. I'll make it maybe kind of brownish. I don't know. Color, what's a good color for a building? Okay, kind of like there. All right, so I'm gonna make a short building first. I mean, it's up to you, whatever size building you want to make. So I could go to this line, or I could go to this line, or this line, or even this line. It's up to you. Like, which one do you want to do first? So that is going to be the top of my building. And then this guideline right here is going to be that top edge. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go here along this line now. Line up my straight edge, see with that line, and there's the top of my building. And it's coming right off my page, so I'm not going to worry about this side of it yet. Okay, it's just like it's so close to us, it's like we're walking by it right now. But I do need to draw the bottom of my building, so that line right there that we already have is the bottom of my building. And it goes right there, so I just lined up my ruler again with that line. And then because I decided that this is going to go right off my page, if I want to fill in my building, I got to do this edge. And this edge. And then get rid of that. Make sure all my little corners connect so I don't have any accidents with my fill. Okay, now if I go ahead and fill this in, there's the front of my building coming towards me. Okay, and so now that I've got that building, that's the start of one building. Okay, so we're looking at just the front of it right now. That's all we're going to worry about for right now. We're just going to worry about the front of it. And then let's put a building next to it. So there's going to be some space maybe in between my buildings. That's up to you. How much space do you want? Like, here's the space. They could be really close together. Like there's a narrow alleyway right here and the next one starts here if I want. Or they could be far apart. Like the next one starts here. So you decide where you want yours to be. I'm going to leave about that much room just because that's what I decided. My next building is going to be, no, we'll make it a more interesting color. My next building can be kind of, it's going to be like reddish maybe. All right, and so I decided it's going to start there. So again, I need a vertical line straight up and down. Don't let it tilt. And so I have my straight up and down ruler. It's the same as the side of my page. And now I make it as tall as I want. I can go to any, I mean, I could go to any of these. I could decide I want it this tall, but then this, you know, the roof has to connect to that, basically. But I'm going to make this one really tall. So I'm going to make it all the way up to the top. And then I'll decide where the other side is going to be while I have my ruler straight up and down here. And how wide is it going to be? It could be a really skinny building, or it could be, you know, a really wide building, or it could be kind of, I'll just say that's about normal. And so I'm going to go ahead and make that line from my street up to the same top line. Okay. Now I'm going to connect my top line using that guideline that's right there. Okay. And next, I'm going to do the bottom line. Oh, go down here. And check that my corners are all filled together. And I'm going to fill. Okay, so there's the front of my next building, right? So again, we don't have the sides done yet, so we'll do that in a minute. We're just worrying about these guidelines for our fronts of our buildings. So maybe I'll make one more building down here. I'm going to make a long one, and it'll be, I don't know, somewhat tall. So whoop, I need to get rid of that. Get my ruler, make it straight up and down again. Okay. And then we'll add we'll leave a little bit of space between them. And then I'm not gonna make it that tall. I think I want to make it less tall. We'll go to that line for fun. Actually, I'm gonna change my building color. I'll make this one dark blue. I don't know. Whatever you like. So it goes from the street up to whichever height I choose. And whoops, I still need this up and down so that I can do the other side of the building. I'm gonna make it really wide. And so it's gonna go all the way down the street. I think it's maybe like as wide as Walmart or something. Who knows? Maybe not as wide as Walmart, but that's pretty wide for being that far away. So now I'm gonna follow the top guidelines from one corner to the next corner. And then I'm gonna follow the bottom guidelines from one corner to the next corner. And see, you guys might notice, so this, I'm only drawing for the building, I'm only drawing this far, but this line, if it kept going, it would connect to our dot that we made. And that's the key to this. All these lines, the tops and the bottoms of all the buildings would connect to the dots we made. And that's what's gonna give us this cool kind of 3D look. So now I'm gonna fill in that building. Okay. And now let's add, so we have 3 fronts of the building. They don't really look 3D yet because we're still missing the sides of the building and everything. So we'll do that in a minute. I'm gonna do one really long building on this side just to make it easier for myself. So this side's gonna be like, it's a really long building, like maybe like a, I don't know, like an airport building or something, you know, sometimes those are really, really long. So sometimes, you know, it takes a while. So you can get as fancy with this as you want, but I don't want our video to get super long. So I'm gonna give myself this building. We'll make it a light blue like this. That'll be pretty. And I'm gonna do the bottom of it. You know what? I'm gonna do, this is gonna be the top of the wall. And I'll connect this over here. I'm going to kind of show you how this works for us in a second here. Let me connect these first. Oh. And fill that in. And now maybe this building has a roof that is kind of sticking out, or maybe windows. So let's do some windows on this building and like a line of windows along the top is what we'll do. And so this is going to be the windows, like a long line of windows. Actually, well, maybe we'll break it up. We can do whatever we decide to do. So that's up to you. So for the windows, I still need straight up and down. And I just decide, okay, it goes up to this line. And so it goes up to this line. So I'm going to say there's 2 windows along there. So there's a space in between the windows, a little gap. And then this window's like that. Okay. And then I'm going to do the rest of it. So I'm ending up making this building taller because I decided to add some windows in there. And you know, I could add the windows later if I wanted, like on top of the color, or I could do it this way where I'm just making it taller. But the important thing is that the windows, if that line kept going, it would line up with the dot. So here's my windows. Okay. And we'll just make this the top of the roof. Or I'll just show you guys. I could just decide it's only this tall. It's up to me how tall I want my building to be. So I can draw a new line. So long as it connects to that dot. There we go. Just make this go to the top of the building. And stop. And connect all these corners so that my fill doesn't mess up. If I have any gaps in there, it's gonna mess up and go where I don't want it to. So I'm just making sure that it's all where I want it to, and then I'm gonna fill out here. Okay, and I need to fill that line again. Whoops, see that kind of attached there. So I might need to just get a pen and just, whoops, that's probably way too big. I can just kind of go on this a little bit to fix that. So now I have some windows in there. And I could do whatever I want. You know, with these I could put windows in here too, like I've already put it, but you know, like if I was gonna put a window, so it would basically be as tall as this line, as tall as this line, and then like along where that line would be, along where that line would be. And so my window is not perfectly straight up and down, it just follows those guidelines. But we're not gonna get too complicated right now. So we'll leave it like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of these guidelines now. So I'm just gonna do that. So if you drew on paper, you can just lightly erase any extra lines that are in your way. Okay. The thing here that I should have done is, and we'll zoom in. I mean, it's like my building really goes off into the distance, so it's such a long building. I probably should have at least given it an end down here, somewhere like a straight up and down line. I don't have to. I can say, yeah, sure, that building goes off so far that I can't even see the end of it. That's up to me. If you want to put doors in the front of your buildings, just, or anything, doors or windows, just remember any up and down lines need to be straight up and down. They need to match the edge of your page. So if I want to put a door in my building here, I can absolutely, let me get a better pen for doing that. Let's get like one of these. I can just absolutely just go from the floor up. Okay. Now here's the key though. Where do I put the top of my door? It's not straight across. Okay. It goes from that dot that we made, that important dot. We use that for everything across. And so you might have to adjust the height of those a little bit to make it fit. And then you could, you know, put whatever you want for your door. Make this a double door. You can put whatever details you want. So I'm not going to get too fancy with that because I'm going to let you guys do all the designing and all the fancy work. I'm just showing you how to make it work as a building. So right now still we don't have the sides of the buildings though. So here's the thing. You know how all our edges, all these edges of our buildings had to be straight up and down to match the edge of our paper? Well, we have a lot of straight side to side lines now. So for anything that's the top of the building here, or the top of whatever, we're gonna have a side to side line now. So I'm gonna grab this color and I'm gonna go from this and I will go as far as I want. I can make this building as thick as I want and then bring it down. But before I do that first, because I'm gonna have to draw behind here, and this straight to side, the side to side line is gonna be the top of this building too. So first let me grab this color and make this line because this one's in front. Okay, so I'm going to make that one first. Now I can make that the back of that building wherever I decide it's going to be. I can get my line straight up and down, as straight up and down as the edge of the page. Okay, and then if I decide that's as far back as my building goes, then I just make my straight up and down line. So let me get that color again, and we'll make it straight up and down. Now, if I want to fill in this color though, I don't want to color this side of my building the same color, you know, as I colored that side, because then it's going to be hard to tell. So if I'm coloring, I'm actually just going to go a shade lighter. So like it's going to be like there's some light shining on here. So if I'm going to do this though, first I got to do all my edges in Sketchbook to make it easier on myself, unless I want to color it in the hard way, which I don't. So if I was working on paper, I would just color it in, you know, whatever color, but use a different color for this side of your building. So let me get my edges in here. And I just want to go, you know what, here's the other thing. I got to do that bottom edge of my building. And again, that's side to side. So look, there's my bottom corner, right? And I just go side to side. Side to side, just like that, from the bottom corner to that other building, wherever I see it. And now I need to go in here and just double check. Does this all connect? There's a big gap there, so I need to make sure that connects to that. And I actually do need to draw another line along this side to make sure it connects right. Okay. So if I get this along here, and I draw myself a nice line along here, along the corner, it's gonna make my life easier now as I go. I'm just gonna make sure all those corners are connected with color. And actually I used a different color on that, so I probably need to redo those lines too. Just go real quick. And I'll do this. And up along there. Straight side to side, really important. And then straight up and down. So everything's either straight side to side, straight up and down. So it follows all the edges of your paper. And if it doesn't, then it should probably connect to that dot. From anywhere on the page, connecting to that dot. And that's super important. So let me see if this is gonna fill without making my life too hard. That's a lot. Yep. Okay. So now I have something that, whoops, let's try and zoom in a little bit to get this in the middle. All right, now I have something that looks like there's maybe some light shining on this side of the building. You could add texture, you know, you could add whatever you want. You could make this, you know, add lines for bricks or whatever. If you make lines going this way for bricks, those lines have to connect from wherever the start of your row of bricks is. So if this is my row of bricks, let me make a color that maybe shows up better. If this is a row of bricks and it starts here, it's this tall, then it's gotta go to that dot, right? That dot is like the key. So whatever we do connects to that dot. So if that's where my bricks start, then it connects to that dot. So if I was putting brick texture on here, I need to kind of make it, and just, so that's where my row of bricks goes. And then if my next row of bricks, it's the same height, right, along here, so I try and make it the same height, but it still goes through that dot. So I'll go across there to show where my bricks are. And then again, the same height, it all still connects to that dot. Everything connects to that dot. So you look at the height close to you to figure it out, but then it all connects to that dot. See, now these lines are going up to connect to that dot, and those lines are going down. So if you were just drawing this without 1-point perspective, it could be really hard to kind of know how to put the lines to make it look like it's disappearing into the distance. But with 1-point perspective, all you got to do is you got to just keep connecting everything to those dots. So now I went about the same distance here. Just going to skip my door. And these ones are really going up. A little more. Okay. And so there's where my bricks would be. And so now I have the sense of my front of my building still has distance. And so what you might notice is that this distance here is wider than this distance here because this is closer to us and this is further away. So it gets pretty crazy. I'm just gonna quickly draw in the lines of my buildings and not do all the coloring now because I just want you guys to see this is straight side to side. You guys can do your own coloring. Okay, so this just disappears behind there. That corner of that building would be straight side to side again, but look, it's behind what I already have, so I'm not going to see it. Okay, straight side to side, matching it. This bottom corner, still straight side to side, and just disappears behind that building. And then this would get colored in whatever other color I want it to be. Okay, so if I connected this straight side to side to those, well, they just go behind, so I don't need to do those two corners. Okay, and the same with this one, it's just going to go behind that. You could get really fancy with your window frames and stuff like that. You know, add window frames on here and everything. Again, you decide like, where's my corner? And then this line going this way connects to that dot. So as much detail as you want to add there, window frames, door frames, everything connects to that dot if it's on the inside surface of the building. If it's here, look, this is really just a rectangle. Okay, the building side that faces you is just a rectangle. You can color in your alleys, you can color in your sky, you can add all your cool details, and just keep in mind, all your lines are either side to side, straight up and down, okay, side to side, straight up and down, and if they're not straight side to side or straight up and down, they need to connect to this dot. If you want to add cars, if you want to add people, if you want to add lines on your sidewalk, straight side to side, okay? If you want to add flower pots, whatever, you know, add whatever you want. Color in your alleys, color in your sky, add whatever details you like, and, you know, doorways, windows, all that kind of stuff, and get as creative as you want and have as much fun with it as you want. All right, enjoy.